So we are back
All
and
right.
better than ever. So welcome to the Psychic Funhouse.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Exploration, love, healing, magic. You've entered a very special place where anything can happen. Stay inside your ride, but be prepared to expand your consciousness. Welcome to the Psychic Funhouse.
Yay, yay, yay. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes. Yes,
Hello, everybody.
indeed.
Yeah, hello, everybody out there in Psychic Funhouse land. Welcome to another edition of your favorite spiritual broadcast. We're here uh, every week at the same time, same location, 6 to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, providing you with some of the finest spiritual content anywhere on the planet. So we're happy you could join us. Let's uh, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm joined here by my lovely co-host, Miss Adrienne Stratton. So why don't
Hey.
you give your contact info for
Yeah.
everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so the best way to reach me or learn more about my particular services is yeah, check out my website, which is ravenmessages.com. I see people in private sessions on Zoom and by telephone. So the website has a lot of information, a lot of contact information, but you can also call me or text me at area code 714-376-7289.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, so my contact information. I'm
Please.
Lawrence. I'm Lawrence Birch, and you can reach me at 541-344-7534, calling or texting. My email is givingtree@earthlink.net, and my website is givingtreefarm.com. So lots of different options for
Yes,
y'all.
indeed.
Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
indeed.
Indeed, yes.
You know,
So,
it's always interesting. We're very blessed and fortunate to have found Riverside FM. For those people that are just learning about us, that are trying to get acquainted with the Psychic Funhouse, the show was actually on for a few years with Lawrence and Michael Espinosa, and I
hmm
was the new addition.
hmm
And we the three of us carried on and had a great time, and it was a lovely show on Blog Talk Radio. But we ended up experiencing a great deal of difficulty, as did many other people, and that platform eventually shut down. So we
yep,
had to research between Lawrence and I, lots of different avenues. Lawrence doing the majority of the heavy lifting. And so, anyhow, long story short, this is just our second episode, and we are still working out a few kinks. But all in all, here we are, and looking forward to getting, as they say, the show on the road. How about
yes,
that?
yes, exactly.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, yeah. Difficulties, to put it mildly. Yeah, Michael and I started the show right about when the pandemic hit in 2020. So we were on for Pritnear 5 years, and a little over 4 years, 10 months, something like that, before we made the decision to pull the plug. And we didn't have a destination, unfortunately, lined up, so we kind of went off the air and lost our continuity and lost our people. So we're trying to reconnect the psychic funhousers, as Michael named everybody was our listeners, bring them back into the fold. But um during that time frame, we had a really wonderful platform going. We had really wonderful discussions. We had great guests on, and we had really lovely listeners and callers. Since we were an audio only show, people would call in live, and we got to do readings on the air for people and interact with them and learn a lot about their lives and what they were interested in, and share great information from our perspective about things. So,
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, the other thing is that I'm glad that we're back doing the show for a lot of reasons. Quite honestly, I feel like this is such a interesting time to be alive on the planet, and people need support. People are confused. People are scared. People are they've got one foot in, one foot out, and to be able to be of service and to connect with people, to let people know a wide variety of other things, like, you're not alone type of thing. I think it's so important, and so I'm really glad we're doing this.
hmm yeah, there are a lot of people, I think, that are definitely in a bit of a quandary with all the chaos that's going on, and um, now more than ever, uh, our kind of calming, supportive, loving presence is definitely needed for sure. So, and it's good just to connect, on a weekly basis, and show some genuine human concern and uh, positive energy and ideas about how to maintain things and move forward in helpful healing directions for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's lots of challenges right now for sure. And people just
hmm
don't know what to think. They don't know what to think, who to trust, and a lot of people, just they're not listening to the news anymore. They've completely shut that off. And I understand that. I know I have really cut back on my media consumption, and trying to keep a handle on my own anxieties. So yeah, crazy time.
Yes. Yeah. Anxieties. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking today about how just like there's now an elevated level of background stress, right? That I just kind of return to, and I'm finding it difficult to go below that to where I have little to no stress as a baseline. Um, it's sort of like just having your motor running all the time is what it feels like. And so there's this drain of energy that I'm experiencing where I'm uh, more tired more often, uh, and forgetful about things. I mean, that could be my brain slipping, but
I don't think so.
yeah, uh,
Not you.
y- yeah, just these signs of stress where it's like I'm used to being able to at least at some point during the week or during the month to just have that subside into something where I actually feel like I'm able to fully recharge and go forward. And now it just feels like uh, I've got this just deep um, inner sense of hollowness. The way I go to reach for something that's gonna just be an anchor. It's like there's nothing there. I'm looking for it, and it gives me a real deep sense of unease and um, you know, I just don't have rest. I'm not getting rest, and it's really disconcerting. It's very destabilizing, and part of it ends up me being having to deal with being mad at myself because that's kind of the first place that instinctively I go to just because of how I was raised and trained. I'm like, oh, I should be able to deal with this, or, why am I feeling this way? Or I hate being afraid, and I'm really mad about it. Uh, so sometimes it gets exported on people that are close to me, which you never want to do. So there's all this stuff going on, and it's important, I think, for us to remind ourselves if other people like myself are experiencing this, which I'm kind of guessing a lot of us are,
Oh, yeah.
no matter what our background is, that this isn't just an accident. This is being manufactured, and when people are feeling this way, when they're stressed out chronically, when they're fearful, uh, when they're feeling despair, we're all much more easily manipulatable, and we're all more likely to succumb to just looking for any port in a storm so we can stop feeling this way because it's a very, very uncomfortable feeling. And people that are creating this environment are doing this intentionally and are absolutely taking advantage of people who are trying to suppress an ongoing flight or fight response.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe that's something we could talk about addressing, stress tonight in addition to other
Yeah,
things.
no,
So
that's very good. That's very good because, yes, I mean, we are being, it's, I think, I think, I think an extreme sense that some people experience is their level of personal safety is questionable, and we are just being it's almost like being bombarded for lack or attacked, I guess, energetically with so much information that's out there, and some of it is it's very hard to believe. It's very hard to believe, and you end up wondering, well, what's going to happen next? And when you do that, what I've found is when you engage in that, what's going to happen next, you're living out in the future, and as opposed to like being here now, which is,
correct.
you
Yeah.
know, necessary. At least I have found that to be
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's another instinctive thing that's going on too, which is uh, an increased desire for different forms of escapism.
yeah.
Whether it's finding myself watching, more than is healthy, just internet stuff, animals chasing each other around in a circle or something else meaningless,
God, so true,
or increasing the carbohydrate intake. That's,
right?
definitely guilty of that. Uh, and, just having my emotions closer to the surface. So, I'm much more sensitive to people coming at me or being irritated or just a bunch of other stuff. Uh, it's kind of like are you we're old enough. I don't know if all of our audience people are familiar with this show or not, but there's a show called there used to be a show on in the 70s called All in the Family,
Oh, yeah,
which had a character on there named Archie Bunker, and his
yeah,
spouse, long suffering spouse, was Edith Bunker.
yeah.
And one of the one of the things I was watching was some kind of retrospective on that show. I just happened to pick that mindless thing, and they they had on a show where Edith Bunker was going through menopause, but she didn't realize it, which is, for the 70s, that's pretty advanced for that,
Mm-hmm.
era, because nobody talked about, quote, female complaints, and I'm not trying to um, minimize them by calling them that at all,
Sure.
but she, she turned the tables on everybody and just was really irritated about everything and was yelling at people, and she was usually like the meek little mouse that had to put up with, Archie Bunker's attacks and just, verbal nastiness. And so, and her whole family, the other cast members, the other actors, like during the show, they didn't know how to deal with it because they'd never seen her act this way before. And then she, finally comes out what's going on. Uh, I'm bringing that up because that feels similar to or parallel to what I think a lot of us may be experiencing, which is, there's this side of us that is coming out, you know, uh, maybe multiple sides that we're not really used to having to deal with. And it's just kind of erupting. Like, I'm a lot more quick to be, uh, think the worst, be condemnatory, um, find myself literally cursing at people who I feel or trying to victimize other people, all this other stuff. And it's like, I don't like what I'm becoming. So I've had to check that too. There's just a whole panoply of stuff. And I always come back to feeling none of this is necessary. This is all artificially created, just like the chaos in the economy. Like we could all be doing so much better and just, you know, figuring out real problems instead of manufacturing ones and then pretending to solve them and, ask people to give us all this attention and like, oh, look what I did. I created a terrible thing and but I stopped doing it. So yay, pat me on the back. It's like, no, idiot, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. Are you kidding me? You're insane. So
So true. You know, it, it I also think that it's interesting, and I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this, although I kind of hate to talk about animals and pets, but a lot of my friends and some of the listeners know that I have two dogs, and Frida is the puppy, and
hmm
I swear she has. Uh, if they were children, if they were two-legged children, I would think that they had gotten into some sugar or something, were eating candy or something like that, because these guys have just been, I mean, just like crazy, crazy energy, high, like almost bouncing off the walls today. And I think to myself, it's like, am I putting that out there? Are they absorbing, some of my stuff? And, I mean, it's possible. It's quite, it's quite possible.
hmm
But, nevertheless,
Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I think animals that are our companions that we're privileged enough to have as family members. Uh, they're sensitive to what we are feeling without having to communicate it like we have to do with other humans. Knock on wood. Hey, I'm suffering over here,
That's
human,
right.
fellow housemate, roommate, or whatever. Oh, I didn't even know. Whereas, your dog or your cat or your other companion will be like, you know, plastering themselves by your side, like a limpet stuck on you. And you're like, what's going on? Why are they so clingy? Is what's going on with them? And it's like, it's not what's going on with them. It's that they've figured out that you are hurting in some way. Maybe it's just emotional, but that's, serious enough to them where they're like, no, I need to be near you because, you know, uh, you're experiencing something
Yeah.
and I'm there to, help you and take care of you. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's happening.
Yeah,
So,
I know. It's a very interesting time. Very, very interesting time.
mm-hmm,
And from, as I
mm-hmm,
may have mentioned, with some of the conversations I've had with my guides, it feels as if we can kind of expect this up and down, highs and lows throughout the course of the year. It's a roller coaster ride for sure,
mm-hmm.
and and I think we. I think we do really
Yeah.
well, if we stay close to one another and we foster healthy relationships as best we can, whether that's with other two-leggeds or four-leggeds, nature, whatever, wherever we are, if we can tune in, be here now, and tap into, not just tap into, but really like try to cultivate, a sense of compassion and unconditional love. If we can embrace those and hold those closer, uh, then we're going to get through this and we'll be fine, but it's quite a challenge right now. It's quite a challenge, and it's going to be for a while.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I'm afraid so. I think that's true. But what you're saying about coming up with, you know, uh, what I would call harm reduction methods, uh, from, you know, the recovery community, that kind of terminology or that kind of thinking. And then, if, coping, if we're only just kind of able to cope with what's going on, something that's, hopefully a healthy way of dealing with it, or at least one that's less harmful. Um, and then, if possible, making and strengthening connections that we have with people who we trust, and who trust us, who we love and care about, and uh, that also have, our similar interests and viewpoints at heart, um, so that we feel safe around them, or as safe as we can. Safe, people don't really think about safe, but safe, the definition of safe, one of them is absence of risk.
Ah,
So in order, excuse me, in order to feel safe, textbook safe, you um, there shouldn't be anything around that you feel is threatened, or that you're risking. And so pretty much that's not possible, you
yeah,
know.
that's like dead almost.
Yeah, yeah. So the idea of finding a safe harbor, or feeling safe, and I don't like, you know coming back to this, because it feels like it's self-defeating to acknowledge it, but I don't think it is. I think it's just being realistic, uh, which is, working towards a feeling of safety, but never really achieving 100% safety. Because if you do, if you follow it to its logical conclusion, you're not risking anything when you're 100% safe. There's nothing that you feel you're putting out there. You're not challenging yourself, in other words, or making any moves that you feel are, um, potentially going to turn out in ways that you hadn't expected. And so, really, the other way of looking at that condition then is being stagnant, right? So you're not moving, you're not trying new things, nothing's coming into your life, uh, because everything's a risk. Waking up in the morning's a risk. Opening
God
your eyes and
knows.
going, "Oh my God, am I still here? Is this still happening to me? Or am I still doing these things to others? That's a risk, Doing the show is a risk. Talking to you is a risk. Opening your mouth, teaching people, these are all risks. And I think if we're mindful about that, then we can start to unwind what our goal is, with these things? What are we trying to get out of it? And then the more intentionality we can put into our lives and into our decisions, the more we're going to be able to guide them in directions that we want. And when they don't go the way that we want, we're going to be able to recognize that more quickly and say, okay, this isn't working. I need to do a course correction. What is that going to be? Instead of getting disoriented, which is another thing I think a lot of people are dealing with, and
Yes.
just kind of running off the racetrack into the wall, and then not being able to complete the mission, so to speak. So so we gotta really work hard to stay out of denial as much as possible. I think that's another tempting thing right now because, just to call it, I think we're all experiencing a death right now, almost as visceral as a death in the family. Only what's dying is our society and our culture. I mean, certainly there are actual people that are experiencing that because of the state of fake emergency that's been manufactured we're in. But
Yes.
our country's dying. I mean, it is literally crumbling before our eyes, and on certain levels, there's not a lot we can do about it except watch the edifice topple over. Uh, and it's not being done in a way that I think is going to, you know, um, it's not being done in a caring, loving way, in a way that, okay, well, there's all these things that have been around forever that maybe aren't serving people, so we need to wipe them away and replace them with something that's more effective, that's more loving, that's more caring, that's more practical. It's being done in a way to create and sow distrust and discord and disharmony, and so people in power can take advantage of it, and it's deliberate. It's not accidental. Every time there's somebody that comes out and says, "Oh, well, that was just a mistake." We make mistakes. Like, no, no, that's not
Yeah.
how it operates on the level you're at. You don't get to make mistakes where you send somebody to a prison and then just go, "Oh well, you know, that person's just expendable. Who cares?" Because that person is part of our community, and what happens to them happens to us. And so you don't get to do that. You don't get to play around with people's lives like that, cut their benefits, or fire them and tell them they did a terrible job when they've been serving our country for 30 years, doing amazing things. So um,
You probably know this, but there are a few, shall we say, well-known, nationally known psychics out there, maybe even some, and there are some international psychics that are out there, and you can find some of them on YouTube. And, they're talking about the fact that by the end of the year, if not by the end of the year, certainly by early 2026, the current administration is going to be removed. And they're
mhm.
talking about, some information that is going to come forward, and it's going to be a very, very powerful moment in our history. And so people have asked, yes, does that mean president and vice president? Yes. And do I trust that? Well, let me at least say this. And I just kind of, I just kind of feel like the door opened up for me to say this.
Okay.
But shortly after and I'll go on record saying this, but shortly after the election, in fact, I may have told you, Lawrence, I don't know, 'cause I know I was talking to Michael around that time, but very, very shortly after the election, I had received messages from my spiritual team that there was election interference, and and it had a great deal to do with Elon and the whole satellite business that he has. And do I believe that? Yeah, I do. I
Mm-hmm.
do.
Hmm.
I mean, that's just my opinion, but there's a lot of people out there talking about it. And every once in a while on social media, you'll catch, someone making mention of it. And we'll see what happens. I do know that it's certainly been very, very sad to say that. A lot of people that we have, leadership that we have looked up to or supported in the past, all of a sudden have gone very quiet. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to wonder, well, why is that? Are they so bullied, so much a part of the problem that they have nothing to offer? And that could very well be true, because
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the change may have to come from, uh, the people.
Yeah, well, the people have the power. Tomorrow there's going to be another opportunity for people to get out and protest at different locations. So,
Yeah.
um, get online and do some research if you want to be a part of that. Uh, you know, I think part of what has to happen is the people that are in power that are trying to push back against what's happening need to feel like we have their back,
Yeah.
uh, and that they know that we're mad enough and organized enough to you know be serious about our protests and the direction that we see things are going, and how much we want to arrest that and you know do things differently. To address the other thing you brought up, which is the prophecy that maybe some people are coming up with about how things are going to change. Um, I haven't been looking uh, and seeing that myself, but so I can't speak to what directly. Uh, you know, it sounds like you've been accessing that kind of stuff. Um, I guess my thing is whether or not that's going to happen. I think we need to really embrace the concept that nobody's going to rescue us from ourselves. There's nobody that's going to show up uh, in a spaceship or at some other means and just like poof, take care of this problem because uh, despite how dehumanizing and othering the people in power right now are to people that they consider their enemies and don't like, um, that's not what we're doing back to them. I joke about them being lizard people, and who knows, maybe they are in a human skin suit. But the real challenge is that these people are our neighbors. Some of them, uh, you know, they're the people that we see every day.
Yeah.
They're people that have families like we do, and you would think that they have cares and concerns similar to ours. Um, so the question is why are they acting so inhumanely? And it's like, well, the you know, humans have an ability to decide who's in the in group and who's in the out group, and we've always done that. The worst thing back in the day when we were just tribes wandering around of maybe 20 or 50 people was to banish somebody, was to shun them, right? Was to say, okay, whatever you've done has been so egregious, so harmful to the community, to the tribe, to somebody in the tribe, or to a value or belief that we hold dear, you can no longer participate as a member of this community. So you are out,
Yeah.
right? And that pretty much for most tribal members, when they would get banished like that, that was a death sentence.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
and in everything but name. And so that's kind of the energy that we're dealing with, where these people have decided that okay, these people are in, these people are out, and and we're going to make sure that they're out, and we're going to do all sorts of steps right in front of your face uh, to, you know, banish and excommunicate these people because we've identified them as quote unquote the problem. It's like, well, uh, first of all, no, I don't agree with your premise. Secondly, why do you need to do that? Well, to distract from what's really going on over here, which is, we're robbing you blind and we're creating all this misery. It's like, well, uh, yeah, maybe there's some issues there that should be addressed, but not by taking away people's humanity and, uh, you know, giving people permission to treat others, uh, really awfully. That is a recipe and a prescription that leads to some really horribly dark places, and we already know what those are like. Genocides, massacres, just people giving in to their worst behaviors, and that absolutely cannot continue. You know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
so
yeah. It's like I said, it's a very
big breath.
interesting time to be on the planet, to say the
Yes.
least. To
Yeah.
say the least. Because it's not just limited to the US. I mean, there's
Hmm.
like some major changes happening throughout the world, and
Hmm.
people are experiencing less and less personal freedom and personal expression.
Hmm.
So it's, yeah, pretty
Hmm.
challenging. It's very challenging.
Yeah. So maybe, we're in the last third of the show now. Maybe what we can focus on, because I think all of us are pretty aware, even if we don't want to be. It's kind of been forced into our consciousness of how bad things are. Uh, different ways, different things that we care about are, sending us red flags. We may not all be aware of everything that you know other folks are aware of, but pretty much everybody's got tipped off that something isn't right. Whether it's the
Yeah.
environment or employment issues, financial issues, other things that we've been able to either take for granted or feel like, okay, these are going to be there. So maybe now, what we need to do is think about what approaches we can take to address these, right? And even if we don't have like 100% solution, what can we do? What let's talk about steps we can take to address our stress. Address the feeling of maybe alienation we have, feeling alone. Uh, Things that we can do to help uh, create some level of respite, even if it's not going to be about a place where we can go while we still can and feel like, okay, at least I don't have everything coming at me all at once. And then also, if possible, what we can do to go into positive, constructive things going forward. Because, the premise that I see is, there's a group of people that are just tearing stuff down to tear stuff down because they can. And destructive energies, always get our attention because of, the power behind them. But uh, it's easier in the short term to destroy things, you know, like a little kid having a tantrum. But then at the end of the tantrum, you've got all these broken toys and nothing left to play with, and that's kind of what we're dealing with. It's much harder to be constructive. It's a much more mature take on things to say, okay, well, something isn't right. I don't want to just smash everything. I want to make things better. Let's partner with people who can help us do that. So what kinds of you know plans can we make? Positive things can we talk about? Practical things so we can do that are within our grasp. That may not be a solution to everything, but can at least start pointing us in this direction so we have a path forward through this. So we're not just stuck here, you know, in a emotional state of you know catatonia, frozen us. So now that we've identified all the boogeymen, how do we vanquish them? In other words. So,
Yeah,
so what are your thoughts on that, Adrian? What's your
yeah,
solution, Adrian? Fix
yeah.
it for us,
Oh,
Adrian.
yeah, well, yeah. Let me wave my wand here and, see what I come up with. But, you know, I think there's so many things at play, so to speak. It's, it's challenging because as spiritual beings having human experiences,
Hmm.
oftentimes there are on the in the human side of things, anyhow, there are sometimes for some people, many issues that are being triggered, that have been unresolved issues from one's own history, one's own childhood. So you've got trauma issues that are being triggered, and that I feel like is producing a lot of the reaction. So it's easy to say you want to focus in on taking action instead of reaction. And that's not always the easiest thing to do when those buttons get pushed. But I do feel like learning how to really rewire, one's thinking, about oneself, about your immediate environment, has a great benefit to that. And as I touched on, a little bit earlier about, if you're living way out in the future, and a lot of times that's doom and gloom, unless one has learned sufficiently about, manifesting positive things in one's life. The tendency is to go doom and gloom. Whenever we're way out in the future and not in the here and the now, which is where we live, uh, that's problematic. So I could get into lots of different theories and lots of different examples along that line, but I do think that short term and in an easy way of trying to give some examples, I think it's really important to try to find not only like-minded people, but people that are truly supportive of you emotionally, supportive of you spiritually, and certainly mentally as well. We are all of those things. So yeah, so community, like-minded community of people, and then without a doubt, it's a good time to really like check out what is your spiritual connection like right now? What are your beliefs? What are you saying? What are you doing to strengthen that relationship? Because that is I think that's really key to everything. Everything is spiritual as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of times people forget that they can call upon their angels. They can call upon Archangel Michael, for example, for help, especially if they're dealing with trauma related issues. Spirit guides will help. prayer, meditation, these are all important things that people can do. And practice, self-love and self-compassion. Sometimes, you know, I forget where this was or when this was. Recently, talking to a friend, and an example that someone was experiencing recently, what in regards to like trauma, it's like, oh, I'm frustrated because I've spent so much time trying to get rid of all of this reaction, all of this, you know, turmoil that's inside. And I was thinking about that, and I heard that, and I felt great love and great compassion for this person. And I thought to myself, the message that I have for you is that it does not go away. It does not go away in the sense that you're forever free from it. I've always likened it to, when one is wounded emotionally, mentally, spiritually, there's like wounds, and you go along and you do whatever means that you do to bring about some healing and work with healers. You do what you do, and that wound heals and it becomes a scar. And but it's a scar. It hasn't gone away. It's still there. It's just a scar. So then what? So then what? Do you like try to get rid of the scar? No. Hopefully not. Hopefully what you do is you learn to embrace it. You learn to say, I am beautiful, I am whole, even with my scars. And when we go along and we find that we are experiencing a reaction to something that is old or something that we haven't experienced in a very long time, I personally, for myself even, will say, wow, that's curious. Look at that reaction. Well, that's so surprising after all these years. And I approach it from a place of curiosity instead of a place of condemnation.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, Adrienne, what the hell's wrong with you? After all these years, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me. It's just simply a reaction to something that's very old. And I look at it and I say, oh, well, that's kind of curious. Now let it go.
There you go.
There we are. There we are.
Hmm.
Yeah. So anyhow, yeah, those are my ideas about, how you support yourself
Hmm.
during
Hmm.
this time.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. Yeah, yeah. I will emphasize a lot of what you said. I think you want to start with knowing yourself. You know, uh, being in crisis may not seem like the best time to look within and get introspective, but I would actually disagree with that premise. I mean, you don't want to be focused on your navel to the extent that you miss external stuff going on you should be aware of. But
Yeah.
uh, you know, um, these are the times that test people's souls, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, now is a really great time to figure out what it is that you're made of. What do you care about? What do you value? Who are you as a person? You know, um, the deeper stuff. And if you're a spiritual person, um, definitely now's a good time to connect with your guides. And if you don't have guides, find somebody who can you trust, who you can facilitate making connection with guides. And like you said, you know, you can invite your guides to be in part of all sorts of your life that
Yeah.
may seem mundane from the outside, but your guides are going to be really fascinated about witnessing and maybe, if you're open to it, giving you some constructive feedback about uh,
Mm-hmm.
know your neighbors, know your community,
Yeah.
who are people that you can turn to who have certain skill sets. Um, it may sound, um, kind of dispassionate to put it this way, but our friends are, as I was taught by somebody, are utilities, right? Different friends have different things that they give us, just like we give things to our friends that they need that we can't do for ourselves. Who's the friend who you can talk to when, you're experiencing some grief? Who's the friend that you can talk to when you need some practical advice? Who's the friend who has skills that you don't have mechanically or something like that? You and make sure that they feel valued, right? And that
Right.
they know that you care about them, uh, and get in touch with them and stay in communication. Um, the other thing I would say is this is a really good time to be prepared, right? So in the Boy Scouts, that was one of our dictums was always be prepared. So what does that mean? Well, I don't think it means having 500 pounds of oatmeal in your basement in a big jug. Uh, and it probably doesn't mean getting a weapon either, so you can use it to go after somebody or end up having it taken away and getting used against you if that's not your bent. um, but it does mean figuring out ways to protect yourself, figuring out ways to feed yourself. Maybe you're going to grow a garden this year or just have a plant in a pot on your windowsill because you're going to try out your green thumb and see if it's useful, something that connects you to something greater than yourself, and
Absolutely.
also helps you to be resilient. Um, Ruggedization is a term that I came across today, right? Being more rugged, meaning if you don't know, if your water gets turned off for a week, what are you going to do? You know, Something like that. Because there's a lot of climate change that's happening, and I don't think we're going to have people and services available like we have had in the past. So we're going to have to rely on ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
As an herbalist, I am the plant person, so that's part of what I try to nail down is to know what's going on with the plant people and where my plant friends and resources are, and the class that I'm teaching weekly, that that is implied but also is explicit. This is what you can do to feed yourself,
Yeah.
heal yourself, you know when you're not able to get in touch with medicine. So you know and I guess overall, um, this is a time where people are going to start trying to demonstrate and tell us that kindness is weakness,
Right.
and compassion is for suckers,
Yeah.
and that treating people the way that we want to be treated, the golden rule, is only going to have people take advantage of you. They're stealing something from us. Um, I would forcibly push back and say that's all bullshit. And people that don't, you know, come from those places on a regular basis, or at least attempt to, um, they're the ones that are really missing the boat. And I feel pity for, because now when things are really, progressing towards some dire places, this is a time to really show firmness of purpose and realize that in many ways, what we might consider our weaknesses may in fact turn out to be our greatest strengths, if we
So
only
true.
shift our perspective. So,
So
um,
true. Well
but,
put.
but yeah, being kind to yourself is a number one, right?
Yeah.
So, and that kindness doesn't mean just letting things go away with. Kindness might mean setting really good boundaries, or amping up the discipline, or you know uh, doing something that's really pretty intense, but ultimately results in a better place for you and the rest of us. So, and of course, the most important thing is stay in touch with the Psychic Funhouse and
Absolutely.
let us know what's going on. We've had some really great comments from our listeners and audience members today, so I want to acknowledge that. And we are actually at the end of the show, so we have to acknowledge that as well. Um,
Yeah.
so,
And thank you. Thank you. To our, I want to say listeners, people that are involved with the sending us, chat messages and what have you. Thank you for, sticking with us because we had kind of a rocky start trying to get tuned in, shall we say? And so, needless to say, we're still working the kinks out, but we're here. We're here for you. You don't have to be alone. And, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know how you're feeling, how you're doing. And, we're open to a lot of different conversations and readings as well. So, you know, look forward to, next Friday.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, how about some contact information from
Yeah.
you, Adrian, for people?
Yeah, yeah. So, best way to reach me is through my website, which is ravenmessages.com.
Hmm.
You can also go to my Facebook page, which is ravenmessages.com. And
Hmm.
you'll find, all kinds of information there, especially about some upcoming events this weekend, or next weekend, rather, on Saturday. I'll be at a holistic fair in Laguna Woods, California, and from 11 until 5 p.m. At the OC Heart Space Holistic Fair. And I'll be there with a lot of different people, a lot of different readers. People charge different things for their services, but there's some free stuff as well. So, I hope you'll check that out. How about you, Lawrence? How can people find you?
Yeah, that sounds great. What's going on with you? So people can reach me through calling or texting. My number is 541-344-7534. My email is givingtree@earthlink.net. And my website is givingtreefarm.com. I've got classes uh, promoted on there, as well as the services that I offer: shamanic practicing, healing, work with herbs. I'm a certified clinical herbalist, and lots of good information and resources. So check that out for sure.
Yeah,
So,
wonderful,
yeah, lots of
wonderful.
options.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Well, I know we went over a little bit today, so we had a little rocky start in the beginning, but I want to thank my lovely co-host, the brilliant and uh, incredibly humble and famous at the same time, Adrian Stratton.
Oh, Lawrence Birch, thank you. Thank you
You
so
bet.
much.
Yep. And shout out to our buddy Michael, Mr. Espinoza, Michael
Yes,
J.,
hello, Michael. Miss you.
man with a caftan,
Yeah,
wearing a tan. He's always here in spirit, if not in form, but we'll get him roped back into the show soon enough. So it'll be a
that's
dynamic
right.
trio. The Wonder Dogs, Rolo,
Yes.
and
And Frida?
Rita, yep, and the mascots out there
Yes.
that also watch the show with their companions,
Yes,
giving
indeed.
us supportive energy. So um,
Yeah.
make sure that you come back and see us next week. We're here every Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The channel on YouTube is the Psychic Funhouse, and we'll continue to put out good quality information and be supportive of everybody coming through the best possible way in these challenging times. Um,
Yeah.
and we also, look forward to uh, getting questions from you. We generally do readings. We didn't do one this week, but we do pretty much most weeks. But Katie and Caitlin had some really great feedback for us in the chat room today. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming
Thank you.
back and being a part of our amazing audience. We love having you here and getting to interact with you. So, so hopefully we'll see you again.
Yes, indeed.
Namaste. Yes.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for being here. We will catch you next week. Until then, have a great weekend. Take care and be kind to yourself and be kind to others.
Yes, indeed.
So, all
Bye.
right.
Bye, Lawrence.
All right. Bye
Thanks.
bye. Yep. You bet, Adrienne. Thank you.
Okay, bye.